Will, if people are just tuning in, of course, this is great news tonight. Our King, King Charles, is going to return to public duty. In fact, actually, let me get a comment from you two first, and Cameron in a second will just bring us up to speed with some of the background. Matt, your thoughts?
Well, it's great news, isn't it? It's the news the nation has been hoping to hear. And what struck me about that statement, Michelle, is that the very first thing the King is going to do is give back to the country, to go and visit a cancer ward, to go and visit specialists and patients. And I think, again, he sets a remarkable role model. The first thing is to focus his mind on public duty and commitment to the public square. I think that's a remarkable and a deeply impressive reaction to his current predicament.
Judita?
I think the first thing that struck me is that I just thought to myself, all of this is no one's business. It should be his private ordeal to go through with family. But then you kind of remember that as the royal family, they do owe the country, like I've said before, public service, but not personal information. But nature abhors a vacuum. So having nothing there would only lead to speculation, which could then turn toxic. So now I was kind of now appreciating on a different level the weight of the position he holds, that something this personal to a certain point has to be made public in order to maintain a status quo for both his family and the country.
Yeah, and of course there's been a huge uptake now in the amount of people that are actually going for checks and all the rest of it, because they themselves have perhaps noticed some symptoms. Maybe they'd turn a blind eye or something. And then this news, not just of King Charles, of course, but of the Princess of Wales as well, about her cancer diagnosis. They have spared people, and we know this because of data we've been receiving about the surge of people getting checks. But Cameron, back to you, because just, if you will, take people back, bring everyone up to speed with the background of this.
Yeah, it's been a busy few months, hasn't it? So it was the 17th of January that Buckingham Palace announced that the King would be having treatments for a benign enlarged prostate, and he would be admitted into hospital a few days later. It was on the 26th of January that the King, alongside the Queen, who was with him when they went into hospital, was admitted into the London clinic in the capital here for treatments. He was discharged the following Monday on the 29th of January. But then a week later, on the 5th of February, news that shocked the world was that the King had been diagnosed with a separate form of cancer, so not prostate cancer, but another undisclosed form of cancer. And that's when Buckingham Palace said he would stop public duties and he would be having outpatient treatment in hospital for that cancer diagnosis. And then we saw him kind of sporadically behind the scenes. We got a smattering of photographs from Buckingham Palace of him maybe meeting the Prime Minister, for example, or an ambassador. And then on Easter Sunday, we saw him for the first time since that cancer diagnosis, greeting members of the public outside St George's Chapel in Windsor, which was a little bit of a surprise, I think, to many of us royal watchers and correspondents, because we'd been told repeatedly that the King had to avoid large crowds, and we knew that the St George's Chapel service on Easter Sunday was scaled back partly because of the King's cancer diagnosis. And yes, it was a very positive sign that he was greeting the public. And then, of course, we saw him on Sunday driving his wife, the Queen, to Crathy Kirk Church, even in Balmoral. He was pictured there. Again, another sign he is doing well. And then, of course, we get this statement this evening saying he's returning to public duties.
Indeed, I'm very keen to bring you guys in at home tonight, because you never know, King Charles might be watching Dupes and Co, and I'm sure your well wishes will go far. Josh says, great news, God save the King. James says, I'm really pleased. This seems like some good news. Maggie says, yes, very welcome. Good news. Welcome back, our King. Great news, says Alan. God bless the King. And David says, this is fantastic news from Buckingham Palace. It really is nice to get good news in the midst of all the doom and gloom that seems to exist everywhere.